as Black women, most of our lives, we get all of these indicators to be outside of our body. And that really challenges us to be able to have a baseline of asking ourselves, is this something I believe or is this something I know?
Whether I know it or whether I believe it, how I feel versus what it is that I know.
Right? It's like, once you know, you just know.
I literally want to show up as a shiny penny.
There was a time when I was so focused on work, I slept under my desk a couple times.
What? Well, I think what Patrice is saying is don't do it, girl.
Don't do it, girl. Don't do it. I was like a cog. I was working. I was hustling. Not in favor of myself.
I'm perfect. I don't know why I'm here. It's other people. They're the problem.
The least that we can do for our own wellness and the love of ourselves is to be intentional about asking, what do I know?
Sunday brunch is self-care.
It's self-care.
We need to put that on the shirt.
This is all me. All of this is me. So what do I want? What do I want to know?
You're watching We Ain't Dying for This, a Black woman's guide to liberation. And I'm your host, Crystle Johnson. We are a community of Black women demanding our collective liberation through radically soft living. Each Thursday, we feature the stories of Black women who have set themselves free from the expectations of others and are choosing to live on their own terms.
Hey y'all, and welcome to another episode of the We Ain't Dying for This podcast. I am your host, Crystle Johnson, and we are a community of Black women demanding our collective liberation through radically soft living. I'm excited to be coming to you today from Chocolate City with my good sis, Patrice Webb, and we're going to be talking about knowing as liberation. So welcome to the show, Patrice.
Thank you. Thank you, Crystle.
It's so interesting. We have a couple of different points of knowing each other. One from when we met each other through LinkedIn, and then two, last year when I hosted a retreat in Cartagena, you were there.
Yeah.
And you have this company called Kindness Gangsta, but during the retreat, you talked a lot about knowing, which is why we landed on this concept of knowing as liberation. So I'm really excited to dive into it. I know that during the retreat, when you talked about it a lot of people had a lot of different epiphanies just from you talking about knowing and diving into that topic. But before we do that, we want to start a little light and do some this or that. This or that. So I got 3 questions for you. I said 3 questions.
It's okay.
For this or that. First question is spades or Uno?
Ooh. I wish I could say spades, but it's Uno.
Okay. Tell us about how you feeling about spades. I feel like there's like a story.
I feel some kind of way about spades. I really do. In the early days of my career, I worked for the Congressional Black Caucus Spouses Program, and we used to put on a bid whist tournament. And these are all the ladies, the spouses of the members, and as well as staffers and community members from their districts, and it was so much fun. And I tried to enter a table one year, and they asked me if I knew how to play. And I said, I don't, but you could teach me. And they said,
They were not willing
to let, no. And I had a couple other friends who went to HBCUs, and I would ask to play when friends came over, and they would just give me the same thing.
So that's some rejection. Connected to spades.
Yes.
That's understandable.
Yes. But I'm still willing to learn.
Yes,
you say that.
Absolutely. And I told you, like, there's this Spades 101 series on TikTok.
I will be looking that up.
Check it out so that you can learn. And I'll teach you. I'm happy to teach you as well.
Okay, this is being recorded, so we got witnesses.
Yes, I will teach you.
Thank you.
I will teach you. Second question is old school R&B or 2000s hip hop?
And I can't say both. Can I say both? Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna say both.
No rules.
It just depends on how I feel. Because the old school R&B, it's all about the curling and the whining, the grinding and the songs, and all the love songs. Yes, all that. Can you stand the rain and the group dances? And you got the 2000s.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, Sir Mix-a-Lot and Young MC and MC Hammer and, you know, all of that. So I'm going to say both.
Okay, cool. I'm with that. A lot of people always say Luther. Like Luther always comes up when I ask that question about old school R&B. Literally the first artist that comes up every time. We love ourselves some
We
Luther.
do love ourselves some Luther. Yes.
We do. And then last question is Sunday brunch or self-care Sunday?
Well, aren't they the same?
No.
Oh. For me,
Okay.
they're the same.
But like out of the house Sunday brunch, or you mean like in your house Sunday brunch?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It might be at the house, usually out of the house, because I
Okay.
don't really want to clean up right afterwards.
And that's self-care.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that. That is a different perspective
Exactly.
that I did not have.
Exactly.
True. So
Yeah.
Sunday brunch is self-care.
It's self-care.
We need to put that on the shirt.
Absolutely. And if I need to do something like nails or whatever, then that's what I get everybody to do. You
Okay.
know, we go get nails and then we
Okay.
do brunch.
And it's a Sunday
And it's
togetherness
a Sunday.
thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love
Exactly.
that. I love that for us. I want to be invited next time.
Okay. No problem.
Tell us, who is Patrice Webb?
Ooh. Well, I also have to say thank you for responding to my cold LinkedIn message.
It was so
to
cold.
Start all of this.
Like, I'm always going to answer to a Black woman.
I
for sure.
appreciate it. I was like, you don't know me, but I appreciate what you're doing and what you're saying, and I mean that genuinely.
Yeah.
You know that. Goodness. So who is Patrice? The first thing that comes to mind is Baltimore. That's my home base. That's where I was born. To say that was my home base. I live here in DC now. But who Patrice is? Middle child, big old heart, hard-headed, and hell-bent on making sure that I help as many people get home into their bodies as possible.
Yeah, I love that so much. You over the summer we did EMDR, which I'm sure
Yes.
you'll share a little bit more about. Very much grounding. If you're someone who's never experienced it before, it is amazing. Like it literally unlocks something in you. I remember I was talking to this woman once, and she was saying she had been in this relationship for an extended period of time, and once she did EMDR, she realized she was in an abusive relationship. And I was like, wow. Like, she became a practitioner. So she was a therapist already, became a practitioner, and then realized through EMDR that she was in an abusive relationship and left that relationship. So it's powerful.
It is powerful. EMDR, which stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reassociation. The most simplest way I can describe why this science was shared is based on the fact that we feel or we experience things through the eyes. And it's when something happens that's traumatic, dramatic, or funny, we recall it visually, and you can describe, right, what happened, and you associate your feeling with what you saw. However, our minds, our beautiful minds, aren't always accurate. So where you may have thought you saw something, you actually felt something that you thought you saw. It's a difference there.
Yeah.
And so EMDR in that practice, and I'm not an EMDR practitioner, but I am trained, which means that I'm not a psychologist, but I have been trained in the practice of, so everything I do is informed, EMDR informed. So what I took you and the rest of the guests through was a visualization practice that anybody can do at any point to be able to remember from here what your experience was with something as opposed to remembering it from here. And being able to differentiate that, this also goes into the knowing versus believing. And that's where the space where we get to come home to ourselves exists. That door is always open. And EMDR is one of those tools that we all actually have a little bit of access to already. We know the power of going out in nature. We know the power of deep breath. We know the power of thinking of our ancestors. We know the power of resourcing ourselves in that way. And EMDR helps us be more intentional about using those tools.
Yeah. It really changed my life. with my therapist, and
Good.
you know, it was just an extension of that to have that conversation with you at the retreat. But what I loved about how she started with me was that she built rapport first. That was the first
trust,
thing.
yes.
It's very important. And then
Yes.
she started with something positive,
Yes.
like who did I see as a nurturing figure in my
Resourcing.
life? Yeah.
Yes.
So then I had the opportunity to really get in my body in terms of that before we got to the things that felt a little more traumatic. So then I could, I think, trust myself more and be in that place of knowing.
Yeah. I love that. I'm so happy for you and anybody else who takes on experiences with EMDR. Adding it to therapy is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
If you happen to work with a coach, like me with my coaching practice, I bring in EMDR to sessions where I can just feel that the client is editing themselves because they're not sure.
Girl.
Yeah.
Girl. That is that's
I know.
something.
It is something.
That's something. That's why talk therapy doesn't work for me, because I literally want to show up as a shiny penny. I
all
want to
complete
be
and done.
I'm perfect. I don't know why I'm here. It's other people. They're the problem. Literally. Oh, so true.
Yeah.
So a few minutes ago, you talked about knowing versus believing. And I think that those are two words that I think people often confuse with one another, especially if I'm explaining like how something that you did impacted me, whether I know it or whether I believe it, how I feel versus what it is that I know. Can you talk a little bit about the differentiating pieces of those two things?
Absolutely. Let me first say that my journey to getting to this space of curiosity, really, to be able to allow myself to change my behavior, meant really paying attention to the things I said in passing, in jest. Oh yeah, I believe that. Or, oh yeah, I know that. And realizing that when I was saying those words, I wasn't feeling it anywhere in my body. I was just saying it. So it was all coming from here because I was in my belief phase. Believing something is like, you know, the phrase, seeing is believing. So I'm seeing you right now, so I believe that you're there. If I close my eyes and I cannot see you, yes, I have a memory of seeing you, but I also know you're there. I can feel you, whether you say something or not. This all goes back to attachment theory. And that early research was about babies who were left alone in a room for a period of time. There would be an adult in the room with the light on. The adult would speak to the baby. The baby could see the adult, knew that the adult was there. And then the following scenarios would happen. The adult would say, okay, I'm leaving, you're okay, type thing, and then leave the room. And the baby had their experience. Light was on, adult was gone. The adult would say, or the adult wouldn't say anything and then leave the room, light was on, and then the baby had their experience. Or the adult might say, okay, I'm leaving, leave the room, turn the light off, and then the baby is there having their experience. And then same thing where the adult wouldn't say anything, leave the room, and turn the light off. So in all of those experiences, that baby at that point, and their beautiful brain gets to decide, am I okay or am I not okay? And it's all about their knowing. What does that baby know at that time? So we grow up to be adults, and we either have secure or insecure attachments and any of the derivations of that. Basically knowing that if we're in a room and the lights are out and no one's around, whether or not I can hear you or I can see you, I'm okay. And that's really getting to that baseline to be able to allow ourselves as adults now to accept that there is a difference between believing and knowing. Now, what are those differences, is what you were asking. The belief is opinion. There's a sense of urgency that I must express that I believe this to be true, right? And I'm threatened if you don't agree with what I believe. I must have you believe what I believe. I don't need to name any names, but there's certain people in elected positions right now who need people to believe that they are powerful. And my response to that is, I know you're not. And I'm not in a rush. I don't feel your sense of urgency because I know. in most simplest terms, when you have to go to the bathroom, is it a belief or is it a knowing? Now, I know you might have a sense of urgency around it, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
you know, here, that feeling you get when you walk into a room or you meet somebody new and you get either the heebie-jeebies about it, or you're just like, wow, this is right. This is the right space. This is the right person. This is the right job. This is the right relationship. All of that is on a vibration of knowing. That is here and your comfort. I sigh because as Black women, most of our lives, we get all of these indicators to be outside of our body. And that really challenges us to be able to have a baseline of asking ourselves, is this something I believe or is this something I know? But being able to identify, and let me say there is beauty in recognizing when you thought a knowing, when you thought you had a knowing, but it wasn't actually a belief, and vice versa. There is no gotcha. This is all about self-work. This is all about self-work and understanding your self-worth. And the belief, again, is opinions. It feels emotional in a way that doesn't feel manageable or can feel overwhelming. It feels like you have to defend it. But the knowing, that's the piece. Because you know, and you don't have to explain it unless you want to.
Totally. I agree with that. When I think about things that I have believed versus things that I know, today I feel like I'm in a place of knowing. And my life felt very chaotic. Like everything felt like chaos. Everything felt emotional. Like everything just felt out of control, foggy.
Yeah.
So I know for sure that for 39 years of my life, I lived in this place of belief. Belief that I had to do certain things, be a certain person, show up in certain ways in order to be accepted, in order to be safe, in order to be secure. And now it is so easy for me to make a decision. Like I don't need to sit in the decision and think about it 5,000 times and all the different ways that I believe it could go. Because now I'm like, I know like what's right at this point. So I feel grounded and calm, and I just show up in a different way than I have shown up before. So that concept is really powerful. To know the difference between the two.
And that it's funny, I think the knowing also has confidence with it. I think is what I'm hearing you say also, right? It's like once you know, you just know. There's a phrase in New Orleans, they say, if you know, you know, and it's true. If you know, you know. And it's such a spacious place to exist. And I also think that when we have conflict, sometimes it's because we can feel the other person knows something to be true, and we kind of know that too, but we're just not ready to let the belief go. No. And so I think that that's also an interesting tool when you're in a disagreement with someone, or you're finding that something feels like a challenge. If you're willing to sort of react to it, it's your opportunity to say, whoa, am I experiencing this from here or here? Oh, it's coming from here.
Yeah.
Right. And the same as if you're experiencing resistance from someone else, to ask yourself, am I experiencing it from here to here? And if it's from here, you're like, okay, they'll get there when they get there, if they get there.
Yeah.
But I'm here.
Exactly. Yes. And all I can do is worry about me.
That's it.
Literally just worry about me.
That's it.
You said something, it's a word that you use, spacious. Such a spacious place.
Yeah.
And when I think about coming to the point of knowing, I agree with spacious, but other words that come to, or another word that comes to mind for me is options as well. Because I know that when I went through my transformation before, I felt like I didn't have any options. I felt like this is the one thing that you can do, and that's it. But once I got to a place of knowing myself, of grounding, of really just being able to relax, clear the fog, like calm all the chaos, it was like, wait a minute, girl. You have all these different things that you could possibly do,
Yeah.
but they just were not clear at that time. So, question for you is similar to that. Before you got to the place of knowing, who were you then? Like, and how did knowing transform your life?
My goodness. I was so stressed. I was so stressed that I remember one night at the beach, supposed to be relaxing.
You had the beach stress.
At the beach, girl. I was grinding my teeth so intently that when I woke up to grab some water and my, your tongue moved around my mouth, I had broken that tooth.
Wow.
And I freaked out. Called my dentist. I don't know what time it was, but it was in the insane hour in the morning. Like he's going to pick up the phone. And I remember sitting there, standing there in the bathroom, and I'm looking at my mouth, and I've got the phone, and I just started laughing because I was like, how did I get here? I love the beach. I'm a nature girl. That was my nickname growing up. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Next day, I come back to DC. I went to go see the dentist, and he said, oh, I've seen so many people coming in with this and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm in there, and, he's in my mouth, and I'm just realizing this has got to stop. This has got to stop. In my sleep.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be thinking about anything
Nothing.
or worried. You're supposed to just be at peace and resting. Yeah. So I got the Aura ring so I could track my sleep for number one, because I'm thinking, what am I doing in my sleep? Like, what am I working on that I'm not aware of? No, I mean, in jest, yes, but I wasn't fully me. I can remember being, my background is in public affairs and strategy and government relations for corporations as well as nonprofits. I still love collaborations. I love ideating. I love trying to solve problems, beverage industry or whatever I was doing, telecom, whatever the topic was. I loved it. I loved all of it because I felt like I was working to make life easier for people. And in those efforts, outside of what I could bring to the table and what I could do, did not matter. Yes, I was taking vacations. Yes, I got my hair done, my nails done. Yes, I always, looked comfortable or whatever you want to call it. Great shoes, not the uncomfortable kind because I need my toes to work. I went to the gym. I got massages. I did all the things. And went out, dated. I did all of that stuff. And I thought I was doing okay.
Yes.
Right? But then I would come home and just feel a little like, what is this? There was a time when I was so focused on work. I slept under my desk a couple times.
What?
Not even for my own company. I mean, now I work for myself, so I sleep in my bed at home. But, and I was willing to do that because I wanted to be first in, because I had all this stuff that needed to be done. So that's all a longer way of saying, answering the question of who was I?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I was like a cog. I was working. I was hustling, not in favor of myself. And it was breaking my tooth, because that's vanity, right? If your teeth are jacked up and I'm talking as a lobbyist doing public affairs, that's a no-no.
Yeah, they aren't listening.
That's a no-no. And they're looking, right? And I didn't want that. And I kind of needed that because I could not hide that. So that's who I was. And I'll say that I have a younger sister. And I used to, I used to get on her nerves, telling her what to do, bossing her around as big sisters do. But also as someone who was in corporate and I needed this structure and I wanted this, and I brought all of those skills, to my relationships, which wasn't fair for anybody. So I had a lot of apologizing to do and a lot of showing up different to do also when I realized how outside of my body I was. And she said to me just maybe 2 Sundays ago, you seem like you're having fun. And I said, what do you mean? And she's like, I don't know. You just, I ask you these questions about what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? And you're kind of like, I'm not sure. I'm going to try it. I'm just going to write this, or I'm going to do this. And she's like, and you seem like you're having fun. And I said, I am having fun.
Yeah.
And we laughed a little bit and hung up the phone. And I cried a little bit as I was standing in my kitchen because I could hear myself saying, I'm having fun. And I don't know that I've ever said that.
Yeah.
And this is no slight on any of the companies that I worked for, right? It was always my choice for the most part. If I decided to give 110% to them and nothing to me, or negative 10% to myself, it was always my choice. I could have given 100% and kept, something for myself, or 90 or whatever, however you want to splice that out. So that's who I was until I wasn't.
Yeah, I can relate. I also spend a lot of time like telling my sister, "Oh, you need to do this, you need to do that." It's like, girl, why are you worried about her?
Yes.
Yes, if you ask me something, then yes, I should be able to offer you advice or my thoughts or recommendations. But it was literally coming from a place of belief. Like, I believe that that this is going to work for you, and you need to do this thing because I did this thing, and you should do it too. Yeah. It's like, no, girl.
No.
And then it's not your story to write.
Exactly. And when we do that, when we operate from that belief, it's a projection, right? Because this is an illusion, first of all. Like, just, what you come up with in your mind can be an illusion, and it may not be accurate because it's devoid of the feeling and then the reality, which is why creating is so powerful, because that is reality, right? You're creating this amazing, whatever it is, experience or product. And yes, my sister, sounds like, and yours, that's an irritant to them, to tell them what we believe they should be doing when they know something different. And the knowing that they might have had would have been, don't do what my sister says to do, right? Exactly. Which is totally valid.
Exactly. So, that part. Yes, absolutely. And that mindset of knowing for our sisters as well as for ourselves. If you think about Black women who are listening to this podcast right now and watching us and saying, believing versus knowing, I don't know, how do I get there? What would be something that you would tell them to focus on from a mindset perspective to get them from believing to knowing?
Yeah, this is an excellent question, right? Every talk I do, I usually start with this question. I ask people to raise your hand if you've ever described yourself as having a high threshold for pain. Without fail. And I've only been on a speaking circuit for about 2 years now. All the Black women and all the women will raise their hand. Inevitably. And then they kind of chit-chat, girl, yeah, I did this. And I just kind of let that happen. And then I ask, why are you smiling at having a high threshold for pain?
I don't know. I don't have a high threshold for pain. I would not have raised my hand. What do they say?
They don't know.
Yeah.
They never thought about overextending themselves at work or in their relationships with nothing coming back to themselves was pain. They never thought about it that way. What that goes back to, I believe, is, yes, attachment theory, and more importantly, how you see yourself. And sometimes, can you see yourself? I can remember years looking in the mirror and not seeing me, but seeing my outfit or my hair or my eyebrows, something like that. And now I look in the mirror and I see myself. I have full-on conversations with myself. I do not argue with myself, but I do have conversations and I ask questions and I watch my expressions as I say words out of my mouth. This is called mirror work. When you can stand in front of the mirror and actually spend time with yourself, not critiquing yourself, although that does typically happen for a few moments, but really just seeing you. What do you like about yourself? What did you not notice? Am I getting older and finer? I'm getting some freckles.
You fine. I'm telling you.
Thank you. Thank you. I know. No, I'm just kidding. But I do. No, I'm very blessed. But there's things I just noticed about myself that I didn't notice before. Mm-hmm. I've been in this body for a while, and I'm still seeing things that I didn't notice before. Mm-hmm. That experience of doing mirror work in a regular way is what helped me get from here to here. Because with our brain, our beautiful brains are programmed to scan for danger. That's kind of how they work.
Yeah.
They give us lots of ideas. They give us lots of thoughts. And I'm not critiquing any of it. We need our brains to work at full capacity. Absolutely. And that's why we're more than just a brain.
Yeah.
Because we are more. My heart is here too. My gut is here too. And when we're born, it's your brain up here and your brain and your gut are joined and they split, and then the body is formed. And in between you have, your heart and your lungs, your other organs. But that process of getting from your head to your heart, and it's not to say, again, our brains are beautiful and we need to be in a relationship with our brain.
Yeah.
So that your brain, which processes something like 60,000 thoughts, experiences something like 60,000 thoughts a day, but really only processes about 12,000, which still is a very large number.
Yeah.
And if you think about all the things you do or don't do, or the things that you realize you're doing or don't realize you're doing, we are busybodies. So the least that we can do for our own wellness and the love of ourselves is to be intentional about asking, what do I know? Just throughout the day. Mm-hmm. It's okay to have beliefs, absolutely. And to build that practice of being able to differentiate if we are believing something or knowing something is the practice of asking, what do I know? So when I'm in the mirror and my thoughts are going and I need to get my eyebrows plucked, I need to do this, I need to do that, I'll sometimes have to stop myself and say, well, what do I know? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror. And it might be, I know that I'm fine. It might be, I know I shouldn't have had the second cup of coffee. It could be, I know that I love myself.
Yes.
I know that I love my sister. I know that I am so excited to come talk to Crystle today. Mm-hmm. It could be anything. And just by saying, I know, makes me so happy. You cannot help but smile. So that's a long answer to a short question in terms of process. How do you process? What is the process for building a habit of being able to move from your head to your heart intentionally?
Yeah.
Is to ask, what do I know?
Yeah. And then the homework of that is to do
The
that mirror work.
Yes.
How long did it take you to be in the mirror?
Yes.
Talking to yourself?
I feel like, did we talk about this in Cartagena?
I think we did.
I think we did.
We definitely did. And you said you couldn't do it for a while.
Yes. It took me probably at least 3 tries of at least 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. The first, if I can recall, the first time I did it, meaning I stood at the mirror for longer than like 30 seconds and critiquing myself, I cried at the 3-minute mark. Mm. And what was in those tears? There was some shame in those tears. The truths I'd never spoken of were like bubbling to come out. Mm-hmm. Feeling like I was inadequate in some sort of way. A lot of emotion. And as I'm looking at myself ugly cry, I started laughing. And I'm like, this is all me. Mm-hmm. All of this is me. So what do I want? Mm-hmm. What do I want to know? And I started asking myself, what do I want to know? What do I want to know?
Yeah, because truly it's all about you and what's inside. Mm-hmm. But we're taught to really consider all of these outside factors to give us value, to make us feel worthy when we are innately worthy. And we get to develop our own truths.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, just even the judgment that you talked about in the mirror, like brows, this, that, it's like we're judging ourselves
all the time.
And while there might be people who say stuff or who think things, it's really us. Like, we're the ones who are judging ourselves more harshly than others.
Yeah. And I'm going to say yes and, right? There's a lot of external judgment as we talked about. I mean, you're looking at what we have to do to just be leading ladies in movies or TV shows, to have scripts that actually have dimension around Black characters, right? To show in a magazine spread the right makeup, the right lighting, right? For Black skin, brown skin, the different beautiful shades of brown skin. There's, as you mentioned, there's a lot of external invitation to be outside of our body, and there's a lot of external confirmation to exist outside of our body. So what I'm saying about the mirror work and about the practice of knowing and wanting to know, belief versus knowing, I think that's probably one of the most critical tools as a human being that you have to practice. You have to put that in your arsenal and do it repetitively and commit to it, because there's going to be things, especially as Black women, there are going to be more and more, hits coming in to get you out of that body. And to keep you out and to reward you for being outside of your body, for you to be rewarded for having that high tolerance of pain. In the practice of public affairs, which is my background, I truly believe that one of the things that makes public affairs people and lobbyists good at their job is our ability to put ourselves last.
Well, I think what Patrice is saying is, don't do it, girl.
Don't do it, girl. Don't do it. Don't do it. You come first.
Yes, we do come first. So if there's someone listening who wants to connect with you or work with you, how can they find you online?
Yeah. So my consultant company is called Indwelling Consulting, and indwelling means knowing. And it's INDWELLING consulting.com. On Instagram, Kindness Gangsta with an A. And Kindness Gangsta is the experience, like everything that we talked about, from the mirror work to belief and knowing. Those are practices within my consulting work, especially around coaching, that I take people through, including thought styling, which allows you to literally style your thoughts just like you would style your outfit. And those two ways would be the best. Of course, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. I will always respond to a message on LinkedIn. In those ways.
Amazing. Well, it was so good to have this conversation with you about knowing as liberation. To everyone who's watching, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Knowing as Liberation, featuring my sis, Patrice Webb, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of We Ain't Dying for This, a Black woman's guide to liberation. Catch up on previous episodes on the Living Corporate Network and on YouTube. You're also invited to join our exclusive community for access to early episode releases, exclusive content, live events, and more.